everybody, welcome back to D&J's Epic Quest. I am Justin, or Soft Pillows, and this is...
This is Derek, or Bird That Steals.
How you doing, man?
Not doing too bad. Feels good to talk to you again here. It's been, I don't know, probably close to 2 weeks here.
Yeah, it does feel good to talk to you. I've been anxious in a good way to do this again. So
Yeah, definitely. It's been a long couple weeks. We'll say that. So
yeah, I can only imagine. So thank you to our audience for staying patient with us. We haven't forgotten about you. So we will continue onwards. But
yeah, what else? What'd you have going on here, ma'am?
well, I took vacation from job number 1 this week. So I honestly I did a little bit of reading, worked on the chapter summaries at the very beginning of everything. I still unfortunately had to go to job number 2, but just 5 hours, 5 hours a night. So it wasn't too bad. I found myself staying up really obnoxiously late and sleeping in obnoxiously late as well.
And then I made you get up early today.
You know, it's okay. I attempted to go to bed early last night, but the night before I didn't go to bed until 4 and didn't wake up until about 2 in the afternoon. So my sleep schedule's a little whacked at the moment. But
it's the thought and the attempt that counts.
I started like replaying Uncharted 4's multiplayer, which is, kind of like your standard, shoot 'em up deathmatch, except it's third person. It's not first person, and I don't know. You can like roll and climb and shoot from edges, and I don't know. It's unique to me, so I like it, and I'm not sucking as much as I used to. So
I don't know if I played that one. I played the first 3. I know that, but I don't know about the fourth one.
fourth one, oh my god, it is so good. I'm usually not a fan of like pirate theme stuff, but like if I had to rank the Uncharted games, it would go number 4, number 2, number 3, and number 1. Like I loved the fourth one. The story is amazing, and the adventure seeking part of it is amazing as well.
That's cool. I don't have a PlayStation, so I'll probably never play it. So I'll take your word for it. Well, should we jump into the story here from book 1, Gardens of the Moon?
Yeah, this is chapter 11. So yeah, take her away, Bird That Steals.
Chapter 11, episode 12. I guess I'll just kind of give everybody a forewarning here. Like I said, it's been a couple weeks. I did not get a chance to reread this chapter, so we'll see how much I remember of it just from my summaries here. But I will say, from what I do remember of reading this first section, I really liked a lot, and might be maybe my favorite part of the story so far. I just really enjoyed it and thought it was really cool. So we'll get started here. Krupp is dreaming, and the only presence beside himself is the Elder God's fire. He still thought it was a weird gift, but also thought it was important. The land around him was empty. It was a wasteland. The horizon was green, even though there was no moon to drown out the stars. Krupp had never seen anything like it and was spooked, wishing he could return to his bed. He heard thunder to the west. It was a herd of beasts. He watched at them and marveled in wonder, wondering if he traveled back to the beginning of time. A voice behind him tells him that he had. Krupp turns to see a man covered in deer hides and antlers from his skull cap. Krupp introduces himself, and the man says he is Pran Cole of Canig Toll's clan among the Kron Tlan, also known as the White Fox, wise in the ways of ice. This made Krupp smile. Pran tells Krupp fire is life and life is fire. The age of ice passes. Hunting the herds and warring with the Jagat, birthing and dying with the ebb and flow of the frozen rivers. Krupp has traveled to the beginning and to the end. His kind has given way to Krupp's kind, though the wars will not stop. The Jagat barely exist, though they never fought. The Forkul, Assail disappeared, and the Kachain Chemal don't exist either. The ice spoke words of death. Soon the gathering will come, in the right of Imus and choosing of bonecasters. And then time and space get fucked sideways as the Talan Imus and the First Empire are born. Krupp hears all this and wonders why he's been called to this place. Pran doesn't know. He says he's been called, so he appears, but doesn't know by whom. Krupp says this is his dream, and Pran is honored. He sees, quote, one from his time, and maybe he has answers, Pran thinks. Krupp recognizes her as Rivi and pregnant. She looks at Pran and says that the Tellan Warren of the Imas of her time has birthed a child in the confluence of sorceries. It is a lost soul and an abomination. A shifting needs to happen. She shows her pregnant belly, and there's a tattoo of a white fox. Krull came in the answer to the child's needs and now aids us in our quest. He apologizes to you, Krupp, for using the world within your dream, but no younger god can influence this place. Somehow you've made your soul immune to them. Krupp says it's his reward for cynicism. The Rivi and Pran say they are soul taken. Krupp says, hold up, aren't they missing someone? Rivi says she strides between two worlds and Krull guides her, but she is scared and Krupp must welcome her. Krupp says it shouldn't be a problem, but Rivi reminds him that she is an abomination and suggests he goes south. He starts in that direction. After a few minutes, he looks back and the fire is gone, and he was alone again. Off in the distance, he saw something trying to walk, but it was struggling. He saw it fall and get back up. Even now, in the present moonlight, it looked black. He crept closer. He was within about 30 feet, and it still did not notice him. It was once a woman, and now horribly disfigured. It looked as if her limbs had been torn off and reattached. She saw him. The mouth moved, but no words came. A preservation spell has been woven around the woman. It had been reshaped. Krupp yelled at her that her soul had been trapped in a different body. It is not flattering, and Krupp will help. Behind Krupp, the fire returned. Pran and Rivi do some magic shit. Pran sees the effects of the IMS on her, but realizes there is more. She was a mage once. The Rivi gets close and tells Tattersail her name and that her magic is Thyr, and it's time for her to go back to her world. Pran says within her is the past, his world. She knows the present, and the Rivi offers the future. In this place, all is merged. The flesh you wear has upon it a spell of preservation, and in your dying act you open your warren within the influence of Tellan. And now you wander within a mortal's dream. Krupp is the vessel of change. Permit us to aid you. Krupp thinks his dream is fucking weird, even by his standards. Krull suddenly appears and tells him that he will reward him for using his dream. Krupp says being a part is reward enough and that he's happy to be a part of it. Krull wants to know what's up. Krupp says Rallick and Murillo seek to right a wrong and that he doesn't know, but he'll show them what's up. Krull wants to know about the coin bearer. Protection is in motion, but hasn't completely come into focus. The Malazan Empire is in Darujistan, secretly so far. Krull says they don't know what they seek yet, and to use that as an advantage. And a Talan Imes and a, quote, Bane to Magic approach the city they seek to destroy. Find out what he can, but don't openly oppose them. Kroll says to leave them to their own consequences from their actions. Krupp says this won't be an issue as he avoids power. The Rivi took Tattersail into her arms and threw her away. Kind of weird. The Rivi squatted to give birth. Krupp asked Kroll how much Tattersail would remember. He replied, "It's unknown. Soul shifting is delicate work, and the way that Tattersail went about her magic was in pain and violence, and she entered another body with its own traumas. The child born will be like nothing ever seen, a complete mystery." Krupp thought about the parents and noted it was likely the child would be special, and asked Kroll about the first child of Rivi. Kroll said there was none. The Rivi woman was, quote, prepared in a way unknown to any man, including Kroll, and that sorcery belongs to the moon. They watched the birth, which felt like it took forever. The baby was born with silver fur that fell away, and the Rivi severed the umbilical cord with her teeth. Pran said the child drew more from him than he could control. The mother's pregnant belly was gone, along with the tattoo. Pran has said that he won't be able to see the woman the child has grown into in 20 years. Kroll says that he will, but as a Talan Imus bonecaster. Pran asks in how long, and Kroll says 300,000 years. Krupp gives him a slap on the back and tells him he's got something to look forward to. And Pran laughs his ass off at the comment.
I thought that was funny.
Yeah, there's a lot that happened here, and just like the setting and the history, and the one thing that kind of stuck out to me, and probably isn't going to stick out to somebody just listening to this if they are not reading as well, but is the Talan and the Imus, at least at some point in history, must have been like, I don't know if races is the right word, but they seemed to be separate. And then whenever this gathering took place, they became one. Even the spelling was a little bit different. If you notice, there wasn't an apostrophe, in Talan. But I don't know. I thought that was interesting. I'm sure you've got ideas on that.
Yeah, that is interesting, and something I didn't really think about until you just said it. So it kind of just hit me. But there was that moment where Pran is, I don't know if he's talking to Krupp or yeah, I think he was talking to Krupp at the beginning of the section. He tells him that like he is what birthed like them as humans, or like, so I'm getting the vibe of like ancestor here. Like this is a common ancestor between the Talanimas and humans, because this Pran
Yeah.
represents the past clearly in this section, because he's the only member of this group that would be able to be like his actions be documented by either people in the present or this Rivi woman of what I would assume it represents the future. If that makes sense. No, because the Rivi is from their time too. Never mind. Ignore that.
It's definitely a little confusing, but yeah, I don't know. I just, the way the characters were described, this place, I just really loved everything about it. And just kind of like the history and, the melding of the past, present, and future. It was just really cool. I don't know if I've read anything like that before.
It was very descriptive, and even if one reader grabs everything that there is from the section in one go, going back and reading it a few times, like, just really paints the picture much more clearer. And it's really cool to kind of know that like Krupp kind of doesn't have any control in this dream. He does, but he doesn't, because it kind of seems like his dream space was used as a way of, you know, the younger gods not being able to infiltrate. So I don't think that he conjured this dream by himself. I don't
No.
think that his talents of being able to like foretell or premonition, um, I don't think that the similar, but I don't think it's quite the same.
Yeah, and then just the other thing, just the scope of time. That Pran is going to be around in 300,000 years. Just the scope of this story. Whether I guess I don't know if we'll see anything that far into the future in this series, but like it's just an absurd amount of time. It's not like, oh well, you'll see him in like 100
Right.
years.
Yeah.
Nope,
300,000
300,000.
years. That's a minute. It's gonna be a minute before they come across paths again. But also a little bit of foreshadowing too. Going back to your comment about the Tell Ann, uh, I think that the Talan Emis is just a short name of the Warren, because the Warren, because later in the section, they were talking about the Warren. They were talking about how Tattersail, in this dying act of pain and violence, tear magic, right, opening herself up using the sorcery of her magic, and in this pain and violence, with the influence of the Telan, Warren around her, kind of created uh, whatever this is that's being born. I think that I wonder if that's how the Talan Amass got their name, is, and I'm wondering if it's derived from what they call the Talan's Warren, if that makes sense.
Hmm, that's
Because
interesting.
like it's
Yeah.
spelled differently, like you said, but I think that what they're doing is they're just shortening it by adding in the apostrophe where the E and the L would be, and you pretty much have Talan.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But yeah, I think we were right though. Not really. I remember in the last podcast we were kind of anticipating what would happen to Tattersail. And while I think we both agreed that Tattersail indeed was not dead based on some evidence that we had kind of derived, but I never would have imagined this. Like essentially being born again, and this time it's an infant, and now we have to wait 20 years for Tattersail to, I guess, be what she's gonna be. I and if this is a dream world, like, is this an actual representation of what happened physically? Like, yeah, I just there's so many questions that this section brings me, and I don't even know what to make heads or tail of it.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is a little challenging. Just because I mean, so much happens, and and it's in a dream, and how's it all going to shake out?
Yeah, and I feel like this is kind of similar with the dream, like Krupp's dreams, like dreamscapes that we've encountered so far. Like the Karul's fire. I remember that being stated. I remember him wondering about it being a gift, but I guess I don't really know, like, what purpose is this gift that Karul is giving him? Like, it's fire, so I'm like, is it a beacon? Is it a way for others to find? So I still don't quite understand. I guess I feel the same way as Krupp. I just don't get why it's there.
A couple things I know. I remember thinking a little bit. Um, with this fire from Kroll was like drawing comparisons to I guess, like our own myths and that type of thing. Like, it's a little bit different, but I think, didn't Prometheus stole fire from the gods? I guess he wasn't given it, if I remember it right. I don't know what that would have to do with anything, but I'm not versed on the whole story, but that's kind of what I thought of. And then, this Rivi that's pregnant and nobody knows how she got pregnant, kind of reminds me of, uh, the Virgin Mary, that type of deal. The Immaculate Conception and all that. Not that I'm very religious and don't remember much of that either, but it was a comparison that I kind of made. Whether it's right or wrong, I don't know.
Yeah, you're right on both of those. Prometheus did steal the fire. I only know that because of God of War. I think it's in the second one where Kratos encounters Prometheus. But yeah, and also the whole Virgin Mary thing. So, but that also makes me wonder, like, what is it that Tattersail has become? Because clearly, I think that maybe 4 or 5 things have taken place, right? Like a combination of the tier Warren with the influence of the Talan has done something. The fact that the act of like pain and violence, as well as the fact that she soul shifted into a body that had already been traumatized, and then lastly, being basically born again. Because I'm assuming what happened is they took the soul from ravaged Night Chill's body, and that's why the Rivi like cradles it at first and then just disposes it like it's an apple core or something. Is because Pran essentially used all of his sorcery to move the soul uh, to the unborn child.
I think what we can deduce from this is that Tattersail will be Jesus.
That's kind of the vibe that I'm getting, but I don't necessarily think that she's going to be going around giving bread and water. I think
Yeah, it'll probably be wine.
wine and something between her legs.
Fish. Oh, that could be fishy.
Well, I guess I'm assuming that they probably don't have the most illustrious soaps. So maybe.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it got there quick, didn't it?
0 to 100.
It's the only way I know how. But yeah, I don't know. This whole scene was just amazing.
Yeah, like I said, it's probably my favorite so far.
Yeah, I would totally agree. But I still want to know more about why Krupp asks Karul about the Rivi's first baby. Like, how do they have, like, I'm assuming that's like some type of metaphor for something, because I find it hard to believe that the Rivi have never, bared child before, because there's a ton of different tribes of plainsmen of the Rivi. I guess logically, I'm not quite understanding how this would be their quote unquote first child. So, is is it just because like it's a, a magical child? But then there are Rivi shamans, so I don't know.
Guess what?
Read it on and find out.
Damn right. You read my
I
mind.
read your mind. You're gonna have to come up with a different saying.
I know it.
But sorcery belongs to the moon. That was another thing that kind of stuck out to me. Is this moon Spawn, or is this like a different moon? And I'm sure I'll have to read and find out.
Right.
But
I guess I took it as it's like got to be Moon
so you
Spawn.
think like Anomander Rake is doing some shit?
Maybe. Must be. Or somebody there.
I just always feel like in some way, shape, or form, there's all of these like alliances slowly forming. Like Anomander and even Caladan Brood at this point, what we know is that they are, they're opposed to Empress Lucine and the Malazan Empire. Uh, so I'm wondering, Anomander has to know something as much as Crone and Caladan Brood think that he's none the wiser. So I'm wondering if like maybe he's interfered a little bit and has allowed Tattersail to be reborn because maybe she is like going to wipe out the floor of the Empress Lucine. Maybe she's a huge player because now she's like been upgraded by being downgraded.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know if I don't think I thought of it that way.
I just feel like there's too many pieces that haven't been connected yet. That there's got to be something that connects them. And I know that we'll have to read and find out, but I still like to think about it.
We'll get there.
I know. I'm excited to read this next chapter. You wouldn't. The devil has been tempting me for 2 weeks. Like, dude, just read it. Like, no one will know.
I bet. I believe it.
So, yeah, I'm excited to be able to read it. But that is what allows us to present this beautiful podcast. Is the fact that like we know nothing of the next chapters. Nothing.
That's right.
Yeah, I feel like I could talk probably a whole episode on it, just a section. But did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about?
I did not.
The one last thing before I'll move on is I know in that section and a little bit of confusion around it, but I feel like they were talking about what was the word? You put it in there. Soul taken. Or something about shape shifting. I don't know if they called soul taken shape shifting, but I feel like they were speculating as to what Tattersail would be when she came out or was reborn. And I believe that it was either Prawn or Karul was saying that she would likely be a shapeshifter of some kind. And I thought that was
It's
cool.
not jumping back out at me.
I could have. It was really, really small, but
I know we did. I know I do remember reading the word soul taken, but yeah, I guess is that the same thing as like a shapeshifter?
I mean, it might be, it might not. I could have totally fucked that up.
I'm think I'm ready for you to take on your first section of this chapter here if you're ready to go.
I'm ready.
All right, SpongeBob.
Glad you picked that up. Hours before Krupp's dream, he leaves Baruch's estate, leaving the meeting between the two and their discussion of the red wax mold of Crocus's coin. Cursing to himself as to how Baruch knew of Crocus's name, he thinks of Mamet, of course, a fellow alchemist, so that must be how Baruch knew of Crocus. As he leaves the study, he notes that Roald isn't there. He descended the stairs as Roald entered, carrying some stuff all covered in dust. Noticing this, Krupp asks Roald if he requires assistance. Roald says that he does not, and asks Krupp to make sure that the doors are shut as Krupp leaves the estate. He leaves the estate and notices that the estate's gates are wide open, and behind them, a swirling cloud of dust. He is reminded of the road construction, kind of like oh, right. Which we as the reader, we equate that to Roald being full of dust. And as soon as he exits, he is hit with a blistering headache, and the sun didn't help. Halfway to the gates, Krupp realizes that he didn't close the estate's doors. Turning around, he closes the doors, and he turns around to head back out of the estate. He hears shouting and then a loud crash. Krupp taken to his knees as a sorcerous storm roars into his head. His head snapping up and eyes widening, he recognizes the storm in his head as a Malazan curse. And in his glorious third person perspective, Krupp asks himself, why does House Shadow's image, why is it like fire inside of his head? The pain passing, he rises to his feet. He strides through the gates and peers into the street. Noticing two men arguing over a toppled cart of stones, he notices that they both speak Daru, but to one who listened carefully, he was able to pick out that one of them had an accent. He adjusted himself and opened the gates and walked out into the street. I didn't think about it at the time, but as I read he adjusted himself, I'm wondering if he's like reorganizing his junk. Like that's the first thought I had.
I guess
I mean,
maybe.
did you ever have
I don't know.
did you ever I mean when you were younger and you would itch your balls in front of people and other kids would be like, what are you doing? And the teacher would be all like, he's just adjusting himself. Did that ever yeah, I don't know.
That must have just
Yeah,
been
maybe
you.
I itch my balls too much.
Insight into Justin's life, everybody.
Welcome to grade school. I thought it was cool that the author brought us back to where Baruch and Krupp left that conversation at the end of, I think it was 2 chapters ago, maybe 2 or 3, which what I can recall is the last place that these characters were. They were discussing and talking about Opon and Crocus, and the ingenious red wax mold that Krupp took of the coin.
I don't remember that happening, I guess.
You don't remember them conversing,
But
or the red wax mold?
the mold.
Yeah, it was when Crocus went out of Jerujistan a little bit to like some type of, I guess, suburb, small suburb, and Krupp asks him at the inn that they're in to go outside and check for some merchant, and Crocus does, and that is when he makes the wax mold, because it was when Krupp and Crocus were like, Crocus showed him the coin and was asking if it had any value, or it was when he went back to go ask for the Carl, the Karl maiden stuff back.
Oh, okay.
Is when Krupp did it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I forget what the inn was called, or even the little like shanty town that they were in, but those were only mentioned a few times, so I don't remember their names.
That's okay.
No worries. But and I didn't put this in the summary because I felt like it was a lot, but as Krupp is descending the stairs, Krupp has thoughts of Opon and kind of makes a joke to himself about Opon's power waxing. And he smiles at himself for this, but this also leads to thoughts that such powers trigger his own talents. So I'm wondering if I'm wondering two things. Are these power triggers his own talents? Are they is it this some type of like natural foretelling, like where the deck of dragons is kind of like a physical, like a physical way of foretelling, because it's based upon the cards arrangements and what you understand of that. So I'm wondering if like Krupp has any I don't know why I'm blanking out today. If he's just got some type of natural deck of dragons inside of his head. Or if this has any relation to the opening sentence of this section. Like, why would the author start the section off by saying, with hours before Krupp's dream? Is it because of Opan's power that has triggered his dreams? Not necessarily the one we just read, but all of them? You know what I mean? Like, is Krupp having these dreams because of Opan's power? And I know that Opan, from what we understand, is a younger god. So that would kind of explain, I guess, to me, why he's having these dreams and why some of the elder gods and non-young gods are taking advantage of Krupp's dream space, if I made any sense of that at all. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm going with it.
I'm just here for the ride, man.
Take it around
I said
town.
I don't remember a whole lot from this section, but just as as you were reading through it, a few things jumped out at me. The road construction, like I think that must be, Whiskey Jack and those guys, doing their quote road construction when they're really planting mines in the street, right? From the last chapter.
That's in the next section to come. But yeah.
Oh fuck.
It's all good. It's all good. I mean, we're going to be talking about it. It's not really a huge mystery. But go on.
Yeah, no, well, I remember that happening, but I couldn't remember when it happened. So I guess if we were reading that, that'd maybe be a little bit of foreshadowing, I guess.
Yeah. Which here in Minnesota, that's like a second season to us.
Yeah, it's winter and road construction.
Yeah, so sorry, 2 seasons.
Basically, yeah. So I guess maybe well, I don't know. I kind of gave that one away a little bit, I guess.
That's okay. I'm not concerned about it. I think it leads into the next section. However, I have more comments on this one.
Yeah, let her rip.
So Krupp, has, this sudden force of storm inside his head, and he's able to recognize it as a Malazan curse. And so my question is this like a swear curse, like a fuck you? Or is this like a magic curse? Or a magical swearing curse? Is he hearing a swear? And House of Shadow is associated with the curse, or is this like a magical curse? Like what exactly is happening? So I just thought that it was. Weird,
I guess I felt more like it was a magical curse.
Yeah, see, that's what I want to say too. But I think it's just weird that he chose to use the word curse. Like, I don't think we ran into that yet.
Well, it wasn't a friendly spell.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I just go to Harry Potter.
Just interesting word choice.
And that's what kind of like, I guess, drived me to think that way, which I'm sure is probably way wrong.
I don't know. I don't think so.
All right. I'll take it. It just makes me feel less crazy.
You're only a little bit crazy.
I have talked in the SpongeBob voice twice now, so.
Well, I only picked it up once.
Oh, okay, cool. Sweet. I'll take it. Maybe you're crazy.
Maybe.
And this kind of goes back to a little bit related to the Malazan curse, but I thought it was funny that he gives this incident. I think it was cool how Krupp essentially gives credit for this happening to Roald, because he calls Roald wise, and if Krupp hadn't not shut the doors the first time, the timing might not have aligned for him to experience the Malazan curse. So, and then Krupp also is like he welcomes Opan's influence. So
Everything happens for a reason.
everything happens for a reason. So I get like the feeling that Krupp is like middle management between humans and gods. I guess is the best way that my mind is I guess putting it.
Yeah, yeah, I can get on board with that. He's kind of the go between guy.
Yeah, right. But those are the only two that are the only things that I thought were cool about this section.
I don't think I really have anything else. Like I said, especially the early part of this chapter, I don't remember a whole lot.
Fair enough. Well, how about you say we talk about some road bombs?
All right, we'll move on. Whiskey Jack and Sorry watch a fat man scurry from a house. Whiskey Jack asks why this man was so important, and Sorry admitted that she wasn't 100% sure why, just that he was. Whiskey Jack asks who lives at the estate that the man just left. It is Baruch the alchemist, and no, that man wasn't Baruch, but he works for him. Not a servant, maybe a spy. He's a skilled thief and has a talent with a capital T. Whiskey Jack suggests Seer. Sorry thinks that is likely, and Whiskey Jack notices that Sorry appears to be nervous, but he tells her to follow him. She left with a little hesitation. Whiskey Jack turned his attention to the rest of the team. Trot's swinging a pickaxe in the street, digging it up, rocks flying everywhere. Hedge and Fiddler had acquired a wagon full of cobblestones less than an hour after they landed in the city. Whiskey Jack didn't know how they did it, and he was kind of afraid to ask. But they would use it to sow chaos into the streets when the time came. They were doing road construction or road repair, but actually they were just planting landmines hidden in plain sight. So far, no one had questioned them. He thought about Sorry, Quickpen, and Kalam had convinced him that they were better off without her. He did feel relieved that he sent her off. He couldn't help but wonder what drew a 17-year-old to war. She was a cold-blooded killer, and even though he told everyone she was human, there were doubts creeping in. However, she acted as if she belonged wherever she went. Despite her youthfulness, he felt like she was old. A thought that the others shared as well. Whiskey Jack looks inward quite a bit and realized that he's losing some humanity. He thought about those who would die under his command, counting success to the ratio of the enemy's dead to his own due to his careful planning. He sees the city as a game board and the people as pieces, not human. He was worried about his friends dying. He hasn't called them friends in a while. All these thoughts have Whiskey Jack shook up. He bit his cheek and draws blood. He reminds himself to concentrate or it'll get him killed. He needs to keep his squad alive. He didn't want to get them killed. Fiddler asks if he's okay. Whiskey Jack says they're behind schedule. Hedge says they're about 3 hours. And Fiddler says they've decided on 7 mines and they'll bring down buildings. They ask if he wants anything particular brought down, and he says yes, the estate just behind them. Whiskey Jack has another headache, and Mallet eases it. Mallet says when he has some time, they'll find the source of his headaches. Mallet asks if he sent Sorry off, and he says yes, that they are on their own now, but Sorry, Quickben, and Kalam all know where to find them. Whiskey Jack studies the map of the city with every major intersection, barracks, and Majesty Hill circled in red. He calls for Mallet again as he bit his cheek, and the healer raises his hand.
I feel like Whiskey Jack I'm like, for whatever reason in this section, I just like, I'm finding myself empathizing with him. Like, I can only imagine like what he's been through, and it makes me think that he's doing some soul searching. Um, and for whatever reason, Sorry seems to bring that out of him for some reason, because I feel like we have seen that before, where like Whiskey Jack and Sorry have some type of interaction, small or large, and she leaves or disappears, and he finds himself questioning himself. So uh, maybe it's just the uncertainty that he's aware that something is up, but all appearances seem normal, is kind of like what I my only takeaway from this section.
Yeah, I think you definitely could be right. I kind of wonder, if maybe Whiskey Jack wasn't drawn into the army when he was young, also, and maybe he feels like this child basically doesn't have a childhood. She just been killing, and uh, he maybe went through something similar and doesn't want somebody else to go through that.
Right. So maybe it's just empathy for the character's empathy.
What do you think of planting mines in the street? Just kind of the guerrilla warfare of everything there.
I mean, I think that that's interesting. Is this just are they I guess two questions come to mind. Are they trying to make a distraction, or are they attempting to uh kill out like but yeah, I don't know if they're planning some type of uh like car bomb, I guess, type of assassination, where if there's an entourage of some figure rolling through the street, like I don't know if they have some type of information on. I know that there's a huge like party upcoming, so is the mines for that? Are they gonna like take out a parade and cause mass hysteria, or is it more subtle? I guess it could very well be anything, but those are kind of my thoughts. What about you?
I mean, I think it could be a distraction, but he wants the estate to come down. So to me, it reads more that they're probably not too concerned if civilians get caught up in the crossfire.
But don't you think it's funny that Whiskey Jack doesn't empathize with that?
Um, Not really, I guess, because he's more concerned about his team than anybody else. So it's whatever he's got to do to keep them safe. I think he's willing to pay that price.
Maybe. Yeah.
Just,
Yeah.
just from how
You
it
make a
was
good
worded,
point.
where it says the people are just pieces. They're not people, and he'll count his success by how many more people he kills than loses his own. I get the idea that he's not very concerned about anybody else but his friends, and especially since he very rarely calls them friends.
I suppose. Yeah. I would agree with you. That makes more sense.
But I didn't really have anything else here. It's kind of I don't know if funny is the right word, but they're doing this road construction, but they're really just putting mines in the street. It's an interesting tactic.
Yeah, I suppose that's probably some dark humor there. I didn't even think of it like that. But yeah, that is funny. They're just all dressed up as road people. And I know that a couple of them are arguing. Um, I'm assuming somebody from Whiskey Jack's squad, as well as somebody from like another cart. I think it was a cart of cobblestones or something. So I'm guessing that Whiskey Jack's squad was in the way, and there was a cart that wasn't paying attention, and they almost hit each other. And in the result, that was what Krupp heard as a loud crash.
Yeah, I think that makes perfectly good sense.
I would agree. But yeah, outside of that, if you're ready to move forward, I am too.
Yeah, I think so. Take it away.
Cool. Crocus strolls southward. Signs of the approaching Getarone's fete were alive in the city streets. Crocus, seeming bummed out, continues to think that usually he is taking advantage of the celebration, filling his pockets by taking from others. This leads him to a thought his uncle had said once, and the reasons people use the fete to escape reality. He arrives home, nods to the old women smoking a pipe on the stairs, and heads inside. Climbing the creaking staircase, he approaches his uncle's study. A pet winged monkey screeches and ends up getting stuck in Crocus's hair. Crocus opens the door and enters his Uncle Mammoth's study. Mammoth was sitting in his chair with his back facing the door and, without turning, asked Crocus if he would like some tea. Moby, the annoying flying monkey, leaves Crocus and zips to Mammoth's desk, scatting papers to the floor as Moby makes his landing. What a fucking asshole. Turning with the tea in his hands, Mammoth asks Crocus that he looks tired. Crocus grabs a chair and tells Mammoth that he is tired and in a dark mood. Mammoth sets the tray on the table between chairs and then takes a seat opposite of Crocus. Mammoth tells Crocus that he doesn't have any moral issues with Crocus's profession and begins to talk about privilege, ownership, and responsibility. Mammoth concludes that he does worry about the risks involved in what Crocus does, and they require his utmost attention, and that distractions could be dangerous. Crocus doesn't even respond to any of that, but rather asks Mammoth what he's been writing all these years. With excitement, Mammoth asks Crocus if he wants to pursue education, and then compliments Crocus's intelligence and his youthful eagerness. Mammoth begins to explain that what he has been writing was the history of Darujistan, and that he is just beginning the fifth volume. Mammoth begins to explain that Crocus would need to start at the beginning. Crocus simply nods his head and says, "Born on a rumor?" Mammoth confirms this and asks him if he's heard someone say it before. Crocus agrees to this, and Mammoth tells Crocus to lean back and drink his tea. Mammoth begins by explaining the beginning of the history of Darujistan, which we'll go into. After the history lesson, Crocus asks Mammoth what happened to the people that won, and why aren't they here in Darujistan. Mammoth hesitates to this a little bit, and Crocus picks up on this hesitation, wondering what it was that Mammoth was about to reveal. But Mammoth begins to explain that no one is really sure what happened to them and how they became what they are today. They exist and are known to all who have faced the Malazan Empire as the Talan Imas. So yeah, it's pretty cool. We get a history of Darujistan, and we know that Crocus is in some type of pissy mood.
Yeah, I'll admit this one. At least so far, I don't remember much of this. I remember him talking about the fifth volume of the book. Um, I thought the monkey flying into his hair was from an earlier chapter, but that's about all I remember.
It's all good. It's been a rough week for you, so it's no worries. Crocus, I mean, the comment that his uncle had told him about people using the fete to escape reality, Crocus does get kind of dark here, which does kind of represent his mood. But I get the sense that it doesn't matter how hard or little you celebrate, as it's all futile. Because eventually the Malazan Empire would barge through the doors and slaughter everybody in the Fete and all those involved. So partying and celebrating was essentially delaying the inevitable. Like, this is what I've gathered as to what Crocus's thoughts are, which is why he's not very determined to pickpocket as he would in the past, and why he's kind of like questioning his thieving is what I'm kind of gathering from his walk to his uncle's place.
All right. I will go along with it. I don't have any reason not to.
But this section is also what makes me think that maybe Whiskey Jack and Co. are planning something during the festival.
I mean, that makes sense because people are going to probably have their guard down and stuff, right? And people are going to be gathering.
I mean, Whiskey Jack definitely has some. He's been around the neighborhood on the bike a few times. And what I mean by that is, I'm assuming that he is noticing everything else in the streets going on. Like, I'm sure that he can recognize when, like, a festival is about to start or go down or begin.
Right. I think you're right.
I think it's just funny how, like, the author does this, and whether it's intentional or not, I don't know. But I think it's really cool how you can take pieces of information from different sections and kind of like, oh, I wonder if that is why, or I wonder if that's what they're planning. And you could just get maybe just these ever so like subtle hints.
Very well could be.
All right. So let me go into the history of Darujistan that was explained in this section. And honestly, I love this part. And I think that it ties nicely into other elements of the story. So Mammoth explains that in the early cycle of this realm, three great people struggled for dominion, none of them human. Dipping out early were the Fork-Roll-Sail, or also known as the Crussail, not because of weakness, but rather of disinterest, leaving the two to war endlessly. Eventually one would fall, as they battle amongst themselves as well as their enemies. This was the Jaghut. While this name has degenerated, more common names would be Jahag or Shurl. So, like Jaghut nicknames. Even though I feel like Jaghut has been introduced more than the other ones, but I'm assuming that this is just a Darujistan way of calling the Jaghut. They may have lost the war, but it's said that few of them remain, but not on Genebacchus. Mammoth brings this back around and tells Crocus that the city was born on a rumor because among the indigenous Gadrobi hill tribes survived a legend that a Jaghut's barrow lay somewhere, the legend reaching all across the land, and soon enough powerful sorcerers and mages and treasure hunters would scour the area. The barrow was never found, and the legend is unheard of today. None but a few know it, and those who did know of it knew better than to go looking for it. So that's ominous shit right there. How does this play into Lorne, and does she know better? Is my immediate question to that. Crocus asks his uncle why to this statement. Mammoth explains that rarely does a Jaghut construction fall into human hands. A few have, and the results were disastrous. So basically, I'm gathering that this remnant of this Jaghut tyrant that we were introduced to in the last chapter if it falls into human hands, i.e., Lorne and Lysine, well, I guess Lysine's not really human because she's. I guess we don't really know, do we? I know she's got blue skin.
That's right. I forgot about that. Going way back.
Going way back. Maybe she's not a human race. I guess I don't distinctively know. So maybe, but I'm assuming it being used for, you know, powers. Powers it wasn't meant for is probably not a good idea either. But I just thought it was cool that we got a little backstory into Darujistan and how the whole it was born on a rumor kind of makes more sense. And I definitely feel some good closure there.
So I don't remember much of that, so I don't have a ton of feelings on it. But I like how you summarized it and went with that, so I'm going to stand on your side.
Sweet. Well, that's all I had for that section.
I'm
But
sorry I didn't have more to contribute.
it's fine. It's no worries. But yeah, if you want to go to the next section, we totally could.
Okay. This one was pretty short, and I remember I think I had read this before you did, and I remember texting you and being like, "Oh man!" Like I felt like it was a pretty big reveal here. Um, yeah. So we'll get going here. Sari was trailing the fat man. She was struggling to keep up with him, not because he was hard to follow, but because her head was a mess. Whiskey Jack had said one word to her to throw her in a loop. He had said seer. It had nearly overwhelmed her. She told herself, quote, I am Cotillion, patron of assassins, known to all as the Rope of Shadow. The seer is dead. I am within, yet apart. I stand at Shadow Throne's side, and he is named Amanus, and he is the Lord of Shadows. I am here as the hand of death. She was back in control of her emotions, refocused on the task at hand. She needed to discover how and why the fat man was dangerous, because everything that is dangerous must die.
This is what me thinks that Riga is still in the picture. It's this shit right here. Like, Cotillion is clearly battling somebody within Sari's head. I don't believe that Sari herself, as just this innocent 17-year-old child, is able to battle Cotillion, a member of Shadow Thrones, like the right hand man of Shadow Throne, right? And Riga, who is some type of powerful seer. So when Whiskey Jack said seer, she's like, Riga's like banging on like the fucking inside of Sari's skull, like, wake the fuck up, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. It's shit like this that makes me think that, like, Riga is not done for. Even though, yeah, I don't know why this is the hill I decided to die on. I still feel like she's in there somewhere.
There's two people fighting for control of this one body. So there's three people involved, basically.
Right, right. And I mean, let's be real. If Riga is a seer, did she maybe not foresee Cotillion possessing Sari? I mean, we don't even know this real girl's name. Like, how fucked up is that? We still don't know what her name is. We know the name that she was given.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I guess that's where my thoughts are, is like, did Riga foresee this happening and, like, therefore, you know, was forced to make conversation with this girl, this Fisher girl, before Amanus and Cotillion showed up? I don't know. But that's immediately what my thoughts went to when I read this section.
I remember just being excited because I'm fairly certain you thought that Cotillion was sorry. And so when I read that, I felt like, oh man, Justin was right. And maybe I'm
Yeah.
remembering that wrong, but that I thought that was how I felt about it.
Yeah, I feel like oh man, the early chapters, like chapter 4 or 5. I think it was the chapter where the first chapter of Jerujistan subbook. I think when we got introduced to Crocus and Rallic, I think is where I speculated that it was Cotillion. But I feel like something happened between the two, between this chapter and that chapter, that made it even more clear that it was Cotillion. I don't remember.
I don't either. I remember, like, oh man, that's a pretty big, reveal. I thought that was cool. But that was
Right.
basically all I had for that part.
Well,
I guess I don't have anything to add.
it ties chapter 11 and chapter 1 together, though. You know, and I mean, it sounds like they're 10 chapters apart, which they really are, but it's literally a span of what, 360 pages. So there's a lot that happens in between. So it's cool to tie them back in
Yeah.
and to definitively know that, like, yes, Sari is indeed possessed by Cotillion.
I feel like it's one of the few parts where we have like a question answered and we don't really have any new questions yet.
Right, yes, exactly. It's nothing new has been introduced into the fold, but it definitively answers. And we don't really get much perspective from Sari/Cotillion. There aren't too many from inside the head, if that makes sense. But we will continue on to the fat man, making his way through some markets filled with different types of food and wares. Alas, though, we find Krupp swinging his arms very dramatically as he walks. He is animating his stroll to hide his gestures for magic. He is using magic to steal different foods from different vendors, hiding them in pockets of varying sizes inside of his jacket. After his circuit, he made his way to the Phoenix Inn. He stops outside the door to chat with the lone bouncer out there. After this, he then steps inside. I don't know why, but I just got this picture of this fat man, like, doing. Do you remember the Carlton from God, what's up? Yeah, yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yep.
The Carlton dance, but just like that Carlton dance with the movement of the arms timed with skipping of a fat man is how I envisioned this scene. It's just like la di da di da di da di da as like food just flies into his jacket from different vendors, and
Just kind of skipping down the street.
yeah, like just this like very dandified way.
I'm not imagining it.
I need you to imagine this, Derek.
Like I
I
can.
need you.
I
Are
can
you
imagine
imagining it yet? Okay, you
it.
got
Yep.
it.
I
Oh,
am.
okay. And you're not laughing. You're still not. You're still not laughing.
No, not laughing.
Well, we are gonna pause the podcast until you laugh at the image.
There you go.
Okay,
That,
I'll
that
take
one was
it.
for you. That's for you.
I don't believe it, but anyway, yeah, cool. Well, there's really not much more to that. But if you want to read the next one,
Yeah, no, there wasn't a lot there, was there?
no.
We get a little bit more here. So down the street, Sari relaxed against a wall, somewhat amazed at the fat man. He was at least an adept, but he seemed to be capable of far more than he let on. From the wall, she studied the inn. The man at the door seemed to be screening everyone, but she didn't see anything that indicated a thieves' cant. She was going to go into the inn. It was a place Whiskey Jack would send Kalam and Quick Ben to find unsavory types. But why he wanted such a place, he did not disclose to Sari. She sensed that the group did not trust her and that they were convincing Whiskey Jack and trying to keep her out of everything. But she didn't intend to let that happen. She crossed the street to the Phoenix Inn. As she approached, the man at the door says, "Following Krupp around, eh?" And says that girls shouldn't have swords, and she won't be entering with a sword unless she has an escort. She looks around. Nobody is nearby. Nearby. I'm not sure why I said that.
You went straight Australian there.
I guess. um, the man wants to go out back and says he'll be gentle. Uh, Nothing like a quite obvious sexual advance there. Sari's not really on board with this, so she kills him and just puts a dagger through his eye into his brain. Nobody saw anything, so she just walks in and is immediately stopped when she runs into a woman who has a boy hanging from the ceiling by his feet. They're pushing him back and forth, and as he's swinging back and forth, trying to reach the rope at his feet, they whack him in the head. Cool. The woman smiled at Sari. Weird thing to do as you're beating a kid. And said that if she has any trouble, to call for Irilta and Mies. She saw Krupp sitting at a table, and she sat at the bar to watch him. And she didn't try to hide herself since he was aware of her. So pretty short section again, but we've got a death, a guy getting stabbed in the face. I want to know why there's a kid dangling from the ceiling. Why was that inserted into the story? I don't know.
I think it's just supposed to make Irilti and Mies kind of feel a little bit more powerful, if that makes sense. Not that like they wouldn't be without pushing. I don't know if it was a boy. I didn't get the sense that it was a younger man. I just thought it was a man hanging by his feet. So I'm assuming.
I thought it said it was a young boy, but maybe I'm not remembering it right.
Yeah, I guess I'm not. I'm not too sure, but I feel like in this very male-dominated story I've gathered so far, I guess there really isn't that genderism that I've read in other series like Wheel of Time, but I would assume that these two women are displaying their dominance, right? Like they're not to be fucked with. Like you can't just take us out back and be gentle with us. You know what I mean? Like we're gonna take you out back and not be gentle with you.
They're not even going to take you out back. They're just going to string you up by your feet.
They're just gonna string you up and whack you.
Yeah.
So maybe they're just some type of justice group. Like, hey, you grab that girl's ass. Like, stop being an asshole. You get suspended for 10 minutes while whacked in the head. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah.
But it kind of sounds like Sari did to what's his name? I already forgot his name. The guy at the front.
He is not named yet.
Yes, he is not named yet. Damn it. See, I did it too. It's all good.
Yeah. We both have one.
Yeah, you're right. But yeah, it kind of sounds like Sari was not very gentle with him.
No, she was not.
Nope. And she didn't even need to take him out back. She just did it right in front.
Yeah.
Right in front. But yeah. So I also kind of like wonder now that we're, still kind of talking about Sari, if like Cotillion allows her to like come to the front sometimes, but maybe just like influences her thought process, or like if Cotillion is like 100% in control, you know.
Yeah, I guess I don't know.
So, but yeah, um, kind of leading into that, we've got the next section here, which heading towards the Phoenix Inn, Crocus turns a corner. In his head bounced all the lessons that his Uncle Mammoth had extended far beyond that of books. Excuse me. The etiquette of court manners, the functions of various officials, bloodlines and quirks of certain dignitaries. Crocus tells himself that he will see it through. His goal in all this was to stand in front of the D'Arl maiden he had stolen from. Something about that image mocked him, but there were other matters to attend to. As he approached the steps to the inn, he noticed a huddled shape underneath the railing.
I think it's a dead body.
So the only thing that you're right, yes, it must be a dead body. But yeah. The only thing that I really gathered out of this is like kind of goes back to Crocus feeling some way about him invading this woman's privacy, which for whatever reason has really got him like compassion. Like he's just his sudden compassion for it. And it's kind of got him turned a little bit. And I wonder why the sudden conscious about what he's done. I
Yeah, he
can't
does.
imagine. Sorry, go ahead.
As he's gonna say, he does seem conflicted about it.
Right, which would be so anti, like as a thief, right? Like if you're a thief for a living, like, and I feel like we discussed this before, but you would think that he would like be immune to it, these types of feelings, you know?
Yeah, yeah. If you're a thief, you're. I mean, you've got a different set of morals and honor that you live by.
Yeah, I just because I mean, if you remember that section of that chapter, he kind of stands there admiring this half-naked woman laying in a bed asleep. So, is this like a lust thing? Like, has he fallen in love with her and now all of a sudden he feels bad? That's the only thing that I can think that would directly contradict all of this. And I think that he has some type of vision of him and the D'Arl maiden like standing at the altar together, and then something about that image mocked him. So, as in, like, no, that'll never happen because you've got this other shit to do that is not what the D'Arl maiden would want you to be doing.
Right.
It's like dating a chick with OnlyFans, right? Like, you know, like why would you actively get together with that? I don't know. Just my thought.
Because apparently like problems, I guess.
Right, yes. I guess you're just attracted to problems. But I guess that's just the modern way of me associating to how this image of them being together is mocking Crocus.
Well, anything else you got there?
That's it.
All right. Well, we'll find out our dead guy's name here, which Justin already let on. All right. So as Sari sat at the bar, someone crashed into the room, and for whatever reason, my vision in my head was from Harry Potter when the one professor comes running into the hall and says there's a troll in the dungeon, and then passes out. Except, they don't pass out here. Someone crashed into the room and said Chert had been murdered. He'd been knifed. Several people rushed out to look, and Sari asked the bartender for a drink. Mies sits next to her and tells the bartender to serve her, and mentioned to Sari that Chert was a pig. This made Sari uneasy, and she started to reach under her cloak. Mies says they'll keep quiet, and they'd help take care of her they didn't want to end up with a knife in the eye also. Sari tells Mies that they don't want to take care of her. Someone sits on the other side of Mies and says he's having a really bad, no good, awful day. She laughs and tells the bartender to give Crocus a drink as well. Crocus smiled and at Sari and was kind of checking her out. He stopped and went white in the face and then reached for his drink. The barman tells him to pay up before he drinks as he's getting to be as bad as Krupp. He goes to pay and drops some coins. 2 fall normally, but the third keeps spinning and spinning, never stopping. All 4 at the bar watched it spin. Crocus reached for it. The coin skidded across the bar, bounced in the air, and landed right in front of Crocus. Sari could feel the power in the coin. Crocus finally retrieved it and said he'd not pay with that coin. Sari felt her dagger's hilt and scabbard. They were wet, so Crocus had seen that. She knew she needed to kill him, but also knew that she wouldn't. Krupp called for Crocus. Sari had found Opin's man easily and had connections to Krupp. Sari felt suspicious that it was that easy. Mies said that he was a, quote, likely lad, and that her and Urilta would keep an eye on him. So we get another run-in with the coin here. I feel like it's been a little bit since we had one of those.
Yeah, right. Like an involuntary movement of the coin. Yeah, I guess I don't know what it means. You know, like, why would Opin want Sari to so easily discover it? Like, that's my immediate thought, right? Is, you know, I guess I'm really not too sure what to think about
I
that.
kind of feel like maybe, like, so she obviously knows about the coin, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if that didn't happen, maybe she would have killed him.
Ooh, yeah, that makes sense.
And since she knows he's got the coin, you know, she knows she needs to, but at the same time knows that she can't.
Right. So does that mean that Opin is stronger than Cotillion?
I don't know.
Or where do you think that's gone? I mean, why wouldn't she be able to kill him?
I guess I don't necessarily think that she couldn't do it. It's just that she won't.
Oh, I guess then maybe why do you think she won't? I don't think that that's really expressly revealed, is it?
No, the only thing that, you know, he must have some larger role to play.
Right. Cool. I guess we'll just have to wait and find out.
Yes, indeed.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I thought it was a pretty straightforward section. All of these ones after the first 2 were really kind of shorter sections. But yeah, then this is also part of where I feel like Mies and Erelta are kind of like they're taking justice into their own hands, especially when it comes to like misogyny, is my guess. Because they don't feel any type of way about Shirt. They would just he's a pig. He deserved it, you know.
I mean, just based on his name alone, deserved it.
Yeah.
I don't like that name.
What if his last name was Bert?
Then he should have been dead a long time ago.
Yeah, Shirt Bert.
Oh. All right, Dad.
That was bad. I'm sorry. All right, cool. Well, if you don't have anything else to add, I don't either. I feel like we can move on.
Yeah, keep it rolling.
Leaning against the second tier wall sat Quip's bar. Kalam exits the bar. Looking up at the sky, he sees that dusk has arrived. Across the lake, he could see lightning flash, but it was too far away to hear the thunder. He heads to a squatter's shack that is just down the street. He steps inside. Quick Ben is sitting crisscross applesauce on the ground. Quick Ben asks, oh, sorry. Quick Ben asks Kalam if he had any luck. Kalam tells him that he hasn't had any luck and that the guild has likely gone to ground. Why? He has no idea. Moving away from the door, he hops a squat on his bedroll at the far wall of the room. Kalam asks Quick Ben if he thinks that the city's council had made moves to take out the Assassin's Guild. Unconvinced, Quick Ben tells Kalam that it couldn't be that the city's council anticipated them. Kalam kind of thinks about this for a second, and tells Quick that he doesn't think that the council is full of idiots, as that is kind of the Malazan way. Kalam continues on by telling Quick Ben that he cannot find any trace of the guild, and tells Quick that they are definitely not in the Lakefront district, nor in the Gadrobi district, as the district was filled with farmers and herders. The only thing he could pick up on was something about the eel. All Kalam is able to deduce is that the eel is not an assassin, but rather something else. Ending this conversation by stating that they'll try the Daru district tomorrow. After some hesitation, Kalam asks Quick Ben about his side of things. Quick simply says that he's almost ready. Kalam questions Quick and questions his actions and if they're necessary, and that even Whiskey Jack nearly choked when he heard Quick's proposal. Quick Ben directly just says no, and that he would rather just run away from it all, the Empire, Darujistan, the war, telling Kalam that he needs to do this because it's the only way left. Hairlock's insanity has become a liability, and power draws power, so with luck, it would be Hairlock's demise. Telling Kalam that the more ascendants they can draw into the fray, the better. Kalam wonders what Taishran would do if he caught wind. Quick Ben says that they will all be dead that much sooner. With the sun gone, Quick Ben tells Kalam that it's time to start. Kalam asks if Quick Ben would like him to leave. Quick Ben tells him to stay and to give him until sunrise, and if he's not back, to burn his body to ash and curse his name. Getting on with it, Quick Ben summons a ring of fire around his body. Kalam sits and waits. And I've got a bad feeling about this. The asshole puppet is a slippery little fucker. I don't think that this is the end of Hairlock's demise. I think that he'll find a way. I think he'll find a way out of whatever is happening here. Like, clearly they're attempting to use Hairlock as bait of some kind, is what I'm getting from this.
I would have to reread this part again because whatever you have on here is going to be good because I don't think I've got really anything to add at all.
Okay, no worries.
So I mean, whatever your talking points here, maybe we'll jog something, but I vaguely remember, the eel coming up a little bit, and that I do remember the very end, that part, if he's not back to burn his body, I remember that.
Right.
But
I mean, I feel like there's a good, as far as the section goes, like there's a lot of straightforwardness to this section, but there's also a lot of like ambiguity as well. But there isn't anything that like really gives away any of that or answers any questions. I mean, all I can gather from this is that Quick Ben is going somewhere, which we'll talk about in a second. and he's using Hairlock as some type of bait or something, because clearly the plan is to draw as much ascendance as they can to whatever it is that they're doing. So it kind of seems like a very like self-destruct type of move, because this is essentially what Quick Ben says is the the absolute last possible choice that they have is to go about it this way. What that way is, I guess we'll have to read and find out. But I just I just get a bad feeling. I don't think that things are going to go as planned.
I'm sure they won't, because nothing, very rarely do things seem to go to plan.
And Hairlock, I mean, as slippery as he is, he seems to be he seems to be smart. I think that
Oh,
but he's
yeah.
also like super suspicious too, which is causing him to be cautious.
Yeah, he's, like you said, he's a slippery little jerk.
Right. But I mean, outside of that, the only other thing that I had was I just really liked the way that Quick Ben was described as he was summoning this ring of fire. And it was described as his jaw collapsing and his shoulders slumped. Kalam makes the association that all essence of life simply left Quick Ben's body. I immediately go to like Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark. That very end scene when all of the Ark inhabitants are released. Like, I imagined that happening with Quick Ben as this ring of fire like emanates from his body. So that was really the only other thing that I had to add to that section, because I know they talk about the guild, which we don't really know more about the guild, so there really isn't anything to answer there. We know that the guild is likely associated to Rallick, but again, I don't think I'm not left with any questions about their look for the Assassins Guild.
Right. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I guess my only question is, where do you think Quick Ben is going?
Well, I mean, the only thing that gives it away is Ring of Fire, and I immediately go back to that section in the Chaos Warrant.
Okay.
So that's what I'm anticipating.
I think that's a good point.
But yeah, I guess that's all I had. If you wanted to read on.
All right. Murillo sat at the table and said someone was getting rid of Chert's body. Whoever killed him was a professional and quite nasty at that. Krupp had heard enough. He was eating after all. Murillo said Chert was a fool, but not the type to attract such nastiness. Crocus remained quiet. He saw the blood on the woman's dagger. Krupp says maybe he saw something he shouldn't have. Crocus still watched the woman at the bar. She reminded him of the Crimson Guard mercenaries, nothing flashy among them, or the woman at the bar. Like the mercenaries, a killer where killing had lost all its honor. So what had Chert done to deserve to be killed? He looked away, and Ralik Nam was coming to the table. Everyone is seated, and Krupp says, well, Crocus was daydreaming that he and Murillo had discussed the latest rumors. Ralik asks what those were. Murillo says that they were allied with Moonspawn. Krupp says that's bullshit. And Murillo says, well, the moon hasn't moved, and there is a council tent under it. Crocus says he heard from his uncle Mammoth that they can't get a message to whoever lives in the moon. Murillo says that sounds typical, and Crocus asks who lives there. Call, the drunk, was barely able to stand, but yelled into Crocus's face that 5 black dragons live there.
5 black dragons live there.
Basically, yeah. That's a pretty good impersonation.
Oh god. I like Cole as a character. He sounds like a nice, fun drunk to be around. Um, yeah. I mean, I still think it's interesting. Like the only thing that I had to comment on this section was Animander must not be at Moonspawn.
I thought he did go off somewhere.
Yeah, he did go off somewhere. I just don't remember where. I feel like it was after Baruch and those and Animander's conversation that he went somewhere, or he's just ignoring. He's ignoring Darujistan City Council because he knows that Baruch has more influence than the city council members. I don't know. That's just what my thought goes to. I also think it's interesting that Krupp is like he can't eat while other people are talking about like death or how someone was killed. And just I don't get that from someone who is described to be like slothy and lazy and like gluttonous, you know?
He's just got a sensitive stomach.
Well, maybe he should think of those things more often so that he can not be so plump.
I think it's interesting how much they keep fixating on, why was Chert killed? I don't know. He's just seems kind of like a nobody.
I think it's just kind of like the rumor, right? Like something happens that we know as the reader is just so like whatever, right? But to the patrons of this inn or this bar, they are, they're gossiping, right? Like why who would kill Chert, right? Like, and different people know him differently than, and maybe that's why Krupp stand can't stomach his food as Murillo is talking about how he was killed, because maybe Krupp and Chert had a little bit more of a personal relationship with each other. I don't. That's the only thing that I could think of.
Yeah, that's a good theory. It makes sense. Well, they did talk to each other when they went in, also.
Right. Yeah. What was said, I don't know. I can only assume that it was, hey, someone's following me.
That's what I was just gonna say. I think that makes a lot of sense.
But yeah, I mean, it's cool to see all of these characters back interacting with each other again. I kind of wish that the section was a little bit longer and maybe they talked about other events as well. Like it would have been cool if Rallick would have kind of maybe explained a little bit as to like where the Assassin's Guild is doing, which would have tied back into like Kalam and Quick Ben's search for them. Because I can only assume that they're trying to get some type of an alliance between, you know, the Malazan and the Assassin's Guild, because that seems to be the typical play.
Yeah, I think an alliance would make sense.
Yeah, I mean, again, all these sections are pretty short, and for the most part, they're pretty straightforward. But I like the way that I'm starting to feel a little bit of camaraderie between these 5 characters.
Yeah, yeah, we're definitely. I mean, by this point, I think we're pretty invested.
Right, right. I mean, we're almost to page 400. Wow, we're about 40 pages away from 400. So yeah,
We're getting
I'm
through it.
I'm I'm excited to yeah. I want to read the next one.
Well, it looks like it's only a little over 20 pages. It doesn't look like it's too long.
No, not at all. But we'll still find a way to talk about it for 2.5 hours, which is fine with me.
Right?
Um, yeah, I guess with that, moving on from the 5 black dragons that live in Moonspawn.
You think, I guess my last thought is, do you think the black dragons are Tisty Andy, since they're described as having an Animander, we've seen has got jet black skin.
Ooh, I didn't even think of that.
That just kind of popped into my head.
I think that maybe, well, one, Call is drunk as fuck, but you always say things. I mean, maybe not always, but I know that when I'm been drinking and I'm maybe a little too far to the side of inebriation, I don't really hold back my thoughts. I just say what I'm going to say. So maybe there's some truth to that. I mean, dragons really haven't been brought up until now, or maybe they have, but not very much.
Yeah, I don't really recall. Well, if you want to take it away or bring us into the end.
Sweet. Within the Warren of Chaos, Quick Ben knew of the numerous shifting pathways that led to doors. Though he called them doors, they were really actually barriers where the Warrens touched. He had learned ways of shaping their energies, the doors, or barriers, I take it, finding ways to alter them by sensing what lay beyond the doors. He has mastered the means of finding what he sought, thus taking him down a pathway. This pathway twisting and turning, but he continued walking in the same direction. He was finally brought to a door/barrier that he had sought. Whispering a command, his spirit took the form of his body. His ghost body put hands on the door. He never thought he would pass through this door, as he knew on the other side he was not welcome. Would he have a way of return if granted access? Countering this thought, Quick Ben says aloud to himself that he is the direction, and he is the power of will which places like this respect. With a strange thumping sound, he slipped through, energy flaring through his body. Standing on the barren ground and off to his left, low rising hills, Quick Ben sits down and said, Shadow Throne, Lord of Shadows, I have come to your realm. Will you receive my presence as befits a peaceful visitor? From the hills came the howling of hounds. Ooh, spooky. Yeah. I've got a feeling that they are not receiving him as a peaceful presence.
Probably not.
No. No. No, 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 no. Um, dude, so I loved how, like, and maybe it was explained before, but I feel like we're getting a little bit more into kind of like the world of Warrens. Like, I got a sense of radio waves, uh, like, or just frequency technology on itself. Like, that's how I'm imagining these Warrens. Is like they all just kind of coexist within the world, and only if you have that magic's ability, you're able to go through that one particular radio, right? Like 93.3. Like that is the tier Warren. So that's just how I imagined the way that he was describing the Warrens touching was just radio frequencies. So,
I follow that, and yeah, that makes sense.
or like cellular technology. There's different bands of, you know, cellular data and voice and messages and shit like that. So like they all just kind of like invisible entities that exist.
What do you
But
think of the hounds at the end?
I think there's some shit that's gonna go down. I don't think that he's welcome at all, and I think that Quick Ben, if I'm just taking a stab, I think that he's going to get trapped in Shadow Throne and he has to like find his way out. So, which I don't know if like time and space is happens. Maybe it is. Time happens more quickly. I feel like they talked about this way in chapter 1 or 2. I don't remember, but I feel like time and space are a little affected by the Warrens. So, what Kalam is going to do with his body, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
What did you think of the Howling of Hounds?
Shit's about to go down, I think.
Shit is. I think that's something we can agree on. I think that something's going to happen. Or, things are going to ramp up quickly. But, yeah, I don't know. But there is another confirmation in this section, and that is that Warrens have a distinctive smell. I know that we kind of already knew that, and I think that we were speculating about it, but this, I feel to us, or me at least, confirms that a Warren has a distinctive smell, which I think is weird. But and also realms have textures to them, and I don't really think we've gotten. I don't know if yeah, I don't know if we've gotten really another realm outside of maybe potentially Shadow Thrones and maybe some of the ones that like Hairlock was weaving between the two, but nothing terribly descriptive.
No.
But the only other thing that I thought was cool slash interesting slash curious to know more about. So when traveling by Warren, it is one conjuring of magic to make one's spirit flow through the Warrens. We know that Quick Ben from a previous section is sitting in a shack with Kalam. So whenever people travel by Warren, is it your spirit or is it a physical thing or both? Because I mean, it appears to Kalam in the previous section that life appeared to be draining from Quick Ben. So is it Quick Ben soul shifting into a Warren, or is this how you travel by Warren, and then when you come out, your body? Yeah, I don't know. That's I guess just where my thoughts were going. That I thought was curious.
I always kind of thought it was a physical thing, but this maybe gives a little different point of view. Maybe that isn't the case.
That's what I always thought too, was that it was a physical thing. But that's where maybe like different Warrens require, like maybe he can't, maybe this is what it is that you can only physically travel through your Warren if that is your Warren, right? Like Tattersail could travel through Tyr, but she wouldn't be able to travel into the Chaos Warren unless she did it by soul shifting into it. If that makes sense. So,
Well, yeah, I guess this one, I mean, it's got to be like a spirit thing because his body's still back, wherever.
in Darujistan. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean that was the only thing that I took away from this section, and we're left on this huge cliffhanger. So I've been anxiously wanting to read on for the last 2 weeks. So I'm excited to move forward, I guess.
Yeah, it'll be good to keep reading here. I've kind of been in the same boat. I've been wanting to get back into it. So it'll be good to be back on track.
Yes, it will be. But I mean, that's all I had for this chapter. I thought it was a nice flow of some really cool shit and then some like reveal stuff, as well as, getting to know our characters a little bit more, as well as some backstory to the city of Jerusalem. So it was I felt like it was a complete chapter, even though it left us off on a cliffhanger. I felt like the majority of it was solid. It was digestible.
For sure.
But uh, yeah, I'm good if you're good. I feel satisfied.
Yeah, I think so. And um, I mean, I guess satisfied in the sense of this chapter, but
Yeah.
um, not satisfied with where we're at. I want to keep reading. I know we had talked about maybe putting ads in here at some point. So um, maybe, if people feel strongly against it, let us know. Otherwise, maybe that's something we want to try.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be okay with it.
If whoever's listening to this, if you're strongly against it, reach out to us. Let us know.
We can be found on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, and Spotify.
Yes, and then as far as the socials, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Just search D&J's Epic Quest. Twitter is by far the most active. Um, don't seem to get much interaction on Facebook. Looks like there's a little bit on Instagram. I tried messing with that, but not really my thing. Appreciate everybody following along and having a good time with us. But it would be cool to, maybe see a review. Um, I'm not pleading for a 5-star review or anything like that, but just some feedback on the podcast side of things. I know I listen to some other podcasts, and I know they say that rating and reviewing helps get things out to others, so makes it more discoverable. So if anybody wants to do that, whatever you feel is a fair rating, and just leave us an honest review. We'd love to read it.
Yes, we would. Yes. All right, man. Well, I guess till next time.
Talk to you later, bud.
Later, man.